Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Fracture Lines. Donovan Mercer ran his calloused fingers across the oak dining table he'd crafted 5 years ago as a 5th anniversary present for Layla. The same table where she'd just delivered her bombshell. "I need full custody of Zoe and Aiden," Layla repeated, her gaze fixed somewhere over his left shoulder. "Vance thinks it would be better for everyone." Vance thinks, not I think, not the kids need, but what Vance thought was best. "Whatever makes you happy," Donovan replied, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. He watched confusion flash across Layla's face. She'd expected shouting, bargaining, maybe tears. Not this immediate surrender. She recovered quickly, tucking a strand of copper hair behind her ear. "You're okay with this? If that's what you want." He smiled, the expression not quite reaching his eyes. Layla left the room with uncertain steps, phone already in hand, no doubt texting Vance Hollister about her unexpected victory. Once alone, Donovan's placid expression dissolved. He opened his laptop and pulled up the security app he'd installed 3 weeks earlier, when Layla started working late and returning home smelling of unfamiliar cologne. The cameras, disguised as smoke detectors, outlet covers, and picture frames, had been his insurance policy. Now, they would be his salvation. Donovan Mercer had built his custom furniture business from nothing after his parents died in a car accident when he was 19. Those early years had taught him patience, strategy, and the value of careful planning. People often mistook his quietness for weakness. That misperception had cost many business competitors everything. He thought about his children, 10-year-old Zoe with her serious eyes and talent for mathematics, and 7-year-old Aiden who could build intricate Lego structures for hours. The thought of losing them cleaved through him like one of his workshop saws. But Donovan knew that immediate resistance would only make Layla more determined. That night, he reviewed footage from the master bedroom. Layla and Vance lounged on what had once been Donovan's side of the bed. He just gave in. Vance's voice came through with perfect clarity. No argument. None. "It was weird," Layla replied. "I expected a fight." Vance chuckled. "He's always been soft. That's why you're with me now." "The kids will adjust," Layla said. "Once you move in and—" "Let's focus on getting him out first," Vance interrupted. "Once the custody arrangement is settled, we can move forward with everything else." "What if he changes his mind?" Vance's laugh turned cold. "He won't. And if he tries, we'll remind him what happens to people who stand in our way." Donovan paused the video, his expression hardening. He recognized the look in Vance's eyes, the same predatory calculation he'd seen in men who tried to undercut him, steal his designs, or poach his clients over the years. The difference was those men had all failed, and so would Vance Hollister. Downstairs, his phone buzzed with a text from Bryant Walsh, his oldest friend and business partner. "You okay?" Layla mentioned the custody thing to Shannon. Donovan typed back, "I'm fine. Got handled." Bryant's response was immediate. "Bull. Coming over tomorrow." "Bring beer?" "Bring whiskey," Donovan replied. The next day, Bryant arrived with a bottle of bourbon and 20 years of friendship. They sat on Donovan's workshop deck, overlooking the forest behind his property. "You're not actually giving up your kids," Bryant said. "It wasn't a question." "No." Donovan poured 2 glasses. "But Layla and her boyfriend need to believe I am." "Her boyfriend?" Bryant's eyebrows shot up. "That pretentious gallery director?" Shannon mentioned Layla volunteering there, but 3 months at least, Donovan confirmed. "Maybe longer." Bryant shook his head. "Why not just divorce her cheating ass and fight for custody?" "Because Vance Hollister doesn't just want my wife." Donovan sipped his bourbon. "He wants my children, my home, possibly my business. And he's planning something to make sure I can't fight back." "What are you going to do?" Donovan's smile was slight but dangerous. "I'm going to give them exactly what they want, and then I'm going to take everything back." That evening, Donovan played with his children in the family room, acutely aware of Layla watching from the doorway, phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. "Daddy, can you help with my science project tomorrow?" Zoe asked, showing him her notebook filled with careful drawings of the solar system. Of course, sweetheart. But Mom said you're going to be super busy, Aiden interjected, looking confused. Donovan felt Layla tense across the room. I'm never too busy for you two, he said, meeting Layla's eyes over their heads. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you. Always. For just a moment, something like doubt, or perhaps guilt, crossed Layla's face. Then she turned away, already typing on her phone. Later, reviewing camera footage from Layla's home office, Donovan watched her speak to Vance on a video call. He's just so calm about everything, she said. It's unnerving. It's working in our favor, Vance replied. Has he signed the preliminary custody agreement? Not yet. My lawyer just sent it over. Make sure he signs it before he has time to reconsider or talk to a lawyer. Layla bit her lip. The kids adore him, Vance. Maybe we could consider shared. We discussed this, Vance cut in sharply. Your children need stability. One home, not shuffling between houses. Besides, once we're married, I'll be their father in all the ways that matter. Donovan's hands clenched into fists. On screen, Layla nodded submissively. You're right. I'll make sure he signs tomorrow. Donovan closed the laptop and stared out at the darkened workshop. Tomorrow, he would sign the preliminary agreement and accelerate his own plans. Vance Hollister had no idea who he was really dealing with. Because while Donovan Mercer crafted beautiful furniture with his hands, he had learned long ago that revenge required the same careful attention to detail, precision, and patience as his finest pieces. And this would be his masterpiece. Chapter 2. Hidden Depths. The preliminary custody agreement sat on the kitchen counter like a landmine. Donovan signed it without reading beyond the first paragraph, aware of Layla's eyes tracking his every move. That's it? You're not even going to read it? Disbelief colored her voice. Donovan capped the pen. I trust you, Layla. The lie hung between them, acrid and obvious. When they'd met 12 years ago, trust had been as natural as breathing. Donovan, then establishing his business, had been delivering a custom bookcase to the elementary school where Layla taught second grade. He'd noticed her first, the young teacher with laughing eyes helping a small boy sound out words. She'd noticed his craftsmanship second, running her fingers along the bookcase's inlaid design with appreciation that had nothing to do with his broad shoulders. Now, Layla snatched up the signed document with barely concealed triumph. I'll have Melody file this today. Whatever makes you happy, Donovan repeated, the phrase becoming his mantra. He reached for his coffee mug, another handmade item crafted by Zoe in art class, and saw something shift in Layla's expression. Why do you keep saying that? She demanded. Donovan sipped his coffee. Saying what? Whatever makes you happy. Like you don't care. Isn't that what you want? For me not to care. Before she could answer, his phone rang. Bryant, right on schedule. Sorry, have to take this. Client emergency. He stepped outside, leaving Layla staring after him. Later that morning, Donovan sat in Ariana Dunn's law office, watching the statuesque attorney review the document he'd signed. This is possibly the most one-sided custody agreement I've ever seen, Ariana said, her dark eyes narrowing. You get supervised visitation every other weekend, she gets the house, and you pay child support that's nearly twice the standard calculation. I'm aware, and you signed this without consulting me because I needed her to believe she's won, Donovan explained. Now I need you to help me ensure she loses everything. Ariana leaned back in her chair. I don't typically handle divorces, Donovan. I'm a corporate attorney. This isn't just a divorce. It's a hostile takeover. He placed a USB drive on her desk. I need someone who understands strategy. Curiosity sparked in Ariana's eyes. She plugged in the drive and watched several video clips in silence. Surveillance footage is often inadmissible in family court, she finally said. I'm not interested in what's typical. I'm interested in what's possible. Ariana studied him. What exactly are you hoping to achieve? Full custody of my children. My home. And I want Vance Hollister to regret ever looking at my family. The custody agreement you signed is preliminary, not final, Donovan finished, and signed under false pretenses and coercion, which those videos prove. Ariana's professional demeanor cracked slightly as she smiled. You've done your research. I build furniture that lasts generations, Ariana. I don't create things to be temporary, and I don't form attachments that are easily severed. My children are not negotiable assets. Ariana drummed her fingers on the desk. You understand this will get ugly. It already is. I'm just the only one prepared for battle. That night, after putting the children to bed, Donovan retreated to his workshop. The converted barn where he'd created pieces now featured in design magazines and wealthy homes across 3 states. Here, surrounded by the scent of sawdust and varnish, he felt centered. He accessed the cameras again, watching as Vance arrived for another evening visit. The couple moved to the kitchen, where Layla poured wine into crystal glasses, wedding gifts from Donovan's late parents. He signed it, Layla announced. Vance's smile was all teeth. Excellent. Now, we move to Phase 2. Phase 2, Layla looked uncertain. Getting him out of the house, Vance clarified. Your lawyer included the 30-day vacation clause, right? Layla nodded. It says he needs to find alternate housing within 30 days. Perfect. I've already listed my condo. I can move in as soon as he's out. I still don't understand why we need full custody, Layla said, twirling her wine glass. Shared custody would be less traumatic for the kids. Vance set down his glass with deliberate care. We've discussed this, Layla. Children need stability, not a part-time father. Besides, with Donovan's ridiculous work hours, who's really been raising them anyway? Donovan's jaw tightened. While his business demanded time, he'd never missed a school concert, soccer game, or parent-teacher conference. Meanwhile, Layla had increasingly withdrawn from family life over the past year, her teaching job abandoned for volunteer work at Vance's gallery. On screen, Vance continued, Once I've legally adopted them. Adopted? Layla interrupted. Donovan would never. After a year of minimal contact, we can petition the court to show abandonment. Vance explained with practiced patience. Your ex has a history of working 60-hour weeks. It won't be hard to document his absence from their lives, especially with you documenting every missed call or late pickup. But that would be manipulating the situation, Layla protested weakly. Vance took her hands. It's for the best, darling. The Mercer name has no significance. The Hollister name, however, opens doors. Think about the children's future. Donovan closed the laptop, blood pounding in his ears. So that was their game. Not just taking his children, but erasing him from their lives entirely. His phone buzzed with a text from Ariana. Judge Rosalind Weber is assigned to your case. Known for traditional family values. Despises parental alienation. We have an opening. Donovan smiled grimly. Phase 2 of his own plan was falling into place. The next day, he installed additional cameras in the children's rooms and his workshop, locations where Layla rarely ventured but might now that she believed he was surrendering. He was in Zoe's room, disguising a camera inside her bookshelf when Layla appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? Suspicion laced her voice. Donovan held up a small wrap package. Early birthday present. Was trying to hide it. Her birthday is 2 months away. I like to plan ahead. He shrugged. Unlike some people. Layla's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. He stepped past her into the hallway. By the way, I'll be out late tonight. Client meeting. Fine. I invited Vance for dinner anyway. She delivered this like a slap. Donovan nodded calmly. Whatever makes you happy. He saw it then. A flicker of disappointment in her eyes. Some part of Layla wanted him to fight, to show that leaving her husband for Vance Hollister was worthy of anger or heartbreak. His indifference was the one response she hadn't anticipated. That evening, Donovan didn't go to a client meeting. Instead, he met with Tessa Monroe, Layla's younger sister, at a quiet restaurant 30 miles from town. I appreciate you meeting me, he said as they ordered drinks. Tessa's resemblance to Layla was striking, yet incomplete. Same copper hair, but wary eyes instead of calculating ones. I'm still not sure why we're here, she replied. If it's about Layla and that pretentious gallery creep. It's about Zoe and Aiden, Donovan interrupted, and a plan to erase me from their lives. By the time he finished explaining, including carefully selected video clips on his tablet, Tessa's face had hardened into disgust. I knew she was having an affair, But this adoption scheme is beyond manipulative, she said. How can I help? I need someone Layla trusts to witness what's happening when I'm not there. Someone who can testify if necessary. Tessa didn't hesitate. Consider it done. Those kids adore you, Donovan. I won't let my sister destroy their relationship with their father. As Donovan drove home that night, he felt the first real sense of momentum. The cameras were gathering evidence. Ariana was building their legal strategy. And now he had an ally inside Layla's inner circle. He arrived home to find Vance's expensive sedan still in the driveway. Entering quietly, he heard voices from the kitchen. I don't like lying to Donovan about the custody arrangement. Aiden's small voice carried clearly. We're not lying, sweetheart, Layla replied. Your father agreed to let you live with me and Vance. But Daddy said he'd always be there for us, Zoe interjected. Always means every day, not just sometimes. Your father has a demanding job, Vance's smooth voice explained. He simply doesn't have time for daily parenting. But I do. And soon, I'll be your new dad. You're not my dad. Aiden's voice rose in distress. Donovan had heard enough. He deliberately made noise entering, watching Vance's fake smile appear and Layla's guilty flush. Daddy, both children ran to him, wrapping arms around his waist. Over their heads, Donovan met Vance's gaze with a look of such cold calculation that the other man actually took a step back. In that moment, Vance Hollister glimpsed what Donovan had carefully concealed from Layla. This was not a man who surrendered. This was a man biding his time. And time was running out. Chapter 3. The First Move. Vance Hollister moved into the Mercer home exactly 31 days after Donovan signed the preliminary custody agreement. By then, Donovan had relocated to the apartment above his workshop, close enough to monitor his cameras, far enough to maintain the illusion of defeat. The morning Vance moved in, Donovan watched through the kitchen camera as the man surveyed his new domain. Vance ran his hand possessively along the custom cabinetry Donovan had built, smirking slightly when he spotted the carved family motto above the doorframe. Built with love, made to last. We should replace that, Vance commented as Layla entered with a box of his belongings. Replace what? He pointed at the carving. That rustic craftsman aesthetic doesn't really work with my modernist sensibilities. Layla frowned. Donovan made that when we first bought the house. Exactly my point. Vance's tone was condescending. This place needs to reflect us now, not your past. Watching from his workshop, Donovan smiled coldly. Every dismissive comment, every attempt to erase his presence was being recorded and categorized by the software Ariana had provided. The program flagged potential evidence of parental alienation, psychological manipulation, and coercion, all admissible under Judge Weber's liberal interpretation of family court evidence rules. A knock at his workshop door interrupted his surveillance. Bryant entered, followed by a wiry man with alert eyes and a military bearing. Donovan, this is Reed Ferris, former military intelligence, current private investigator. Reed's handshake was firm. Bryant explained your situation. I'm impressed with your camera setup, but we need more. More? Donovan raised an eyebrow. Your cameras capture what happens in a house. I can gather what happens outside it. Reed placed a slim folder on the workbench. Mr. Hollister has an interesting background. Over the next hour, Reed outlined what his preliminary investigation had uncovered. Vance's gallery was financially underwater despite its prestigious client list. He had a pattern of dating wealthy women, moving into their homes, and somehow emerging with substantial assets when relationships ended. Most notably, he had a sealed juvenile record that Reed was working to access. So he's a sophisticated gold digger, Donovan summarized. With expensive tastes and mounting debts, Reed confirmed. He needs your wife's teacher pension, your property, and potentially access to your business assets. Which explains the adoption angle, Brian added. Legal claim to future inheritance. Donovan nodded thoughtfully. Keep digging. And I want surveillance whenever my children are with him outside the house. Already arranged, Reed assured him. I have a female operative who specializes in covert observation of minors in potential risk situations. After they left, Donovan called Ariana for his daily update. The temporary custody hearing is set for 3 weeks from now, she informed him. Judge Weber wants to assess the situation before the school year starts. Perfect. And the evidence compilation? Coming along well. The parental alienation documentation is particularly strong. Ariana paused. Donovan, are you certain you want to proceed this way? The standard approach will be filing for divorce first, then... I'm not interested in standard approaches, Donovan interrupted. They don't expect me to fight it all. Strategic surprise is our advantage. That evening, Donovan had his first scheduled visitation with the children. Layla had insisted it take place at a family restaurant rather than allowing him to take them to his workshop apartment. When he arrived, Vance was unexpectedly present, positioned like a bodyguard beside Layla. I didn't realize you'd be joining us, Donovan said evenly. Just making sure everything goes smoothly, Vance replied with a thin smile. Throughout dinner, Vance interrupted conversations, redirected the children's excited stories about their father's workshop, and checked his watch conspicuously. When Zoe began crying after Vance mentioned they needed to leave early for family movie night, Donovan felt a dangerous heat rise in his chest. Zoe, sweetheart, it's okay, he soothed, conscious of a small recorder in his pocket capturing every word. We'll have more time next visit. But you promised to show me how to use the lathe, she hiccuped. And I will, just not today. Vance chuckled. Probably for the best. Woodworking is hardly an appropriate hobby for a young lady. Donovan's eyes locked with Vance's. My daughter can pursue any interest she chooses. Our daughter, Vance corrected with deliberate emphasis, will have numerous cultural opportunities more suited to her development. I've already enrolled her in ballet. Without discussing it with me, Donovan's voice remained calm despite his mounting anger. The custody agreement gives Layla authority over extracurricular activities, Vance replied smugly. Later that night, reviewing the recorded conversation with Ariana via video call, Donovan watched her shake her head in disbelief. He's making this almost too easy, she said. Clear parental alienation, deliberate interference with visitation, unilateral decisions about activities. Judge Weber will crucify him. It's not enough, Donovan replied. I need more, something that demonstrates the pattern over time. Be patient, Ariana cautioned. We're building a case meticulously. But patience was becoming increasingly difficult. The next morning, his phone exploded with texts from Tessa. Vance just told the kids to start calling him Dad. Layla didn't even object. Zoe refused and got sent to her room. Donovan's workshop saw more destroyed wood that day than finished pieces. When he checked the cameras that evening, he watched Vance conducting what appeared to be a home redecoration assessment with an elegant woman in designer clothing. Everything must go, Vance was saying, gesturing dismissively at the family photos and handcrafted furniture. We need clean lines, minimalist aesthetic. The children might find such dramatic changes unsettling, the designer suggested tactfully. Children adapt, Vance dismissed. Besides, this place reeks of rustic sentimentality. I want sophisticated elegance. Layla, hovering uncertainly nearby, finally spoke up. Maybe we could keep some pieces? Donovan made most of this furniture himself. Exactly why it needs to go. Vance's tone hardened. Do you want to be reminded of your ex-husband every time you sit down for dinner? The designer looked uncomfortable. Perhaps we should focus on the master bedroom first? Less emotional impact on the children. Vance smiled thinly. Excellent suggestion. In fact, let's start with a new bed. King-size, platform style. After they moved upstairs, Donovan switched camera views to follow them. The designer's discomfort was increasingly evident as Vance outlined his vision for erasing every trace of Donovan from the house. The closet needs complete reconfiguration, Vance was saying. I require at least 70% of the space. That's currently my side, Layla objected weakly. Your wardrobe could use a complete overhaul anyway, darling. So provincial. Donovan had seen enough. He called Ariana. I need to accelerate the timeline, he said without preamble. They're systematically erasing me from my children's lives. We discussed this, Donovan. Building the case properly takes. They've already told Zoe she can't continue woodworking. They're replacing every piece of furniture I made. They're punishing my daughter for not calling Van's dad. Ariana's silence spoke volumes. Finally, she said, I'll file the emergency motion tomorrow. But Donovan, no direct confrontation. Let the system work. The next day, Donovan was finishing a client commission when his phone rang with an unknown number. Mr. Mercer? This is Principal Winslow from Lakeside Elementary. There's been an incident with Aiden. He's asking for you specifically. Donovan arrived at the school in record time, finding his son sitting miserably in the office, knuckles bloody and tears streaming down his face. Daddy, Aiden launched himself into Donovan's arms. Principal Winslow explained that Aiden had punched another boy who teased him about having two dads now. I told him Vance isn't my dad. Aiden sobbed against Donovan's chest. He's not. He's not. Of course he's not. Donovan soothed, meeting the principal's concerned gaze over his son's head. You only have one dad, buddy. Me. That will never change. But Mom says... What does Mom say? Donovan prompted gently, acutely aware this conversation could be significant for their case. She says I have to respect Vance as my new father figure. Aiden hiccuped. But I don't want a new dad. I want you to come home. Principal Winslow cleared her throat. Mr. Mercer, we've been trying to reach your wife, but she's not answering. The school records were recently updated to list Mr. Hollister as Aiden's secondary emergency contact, replacing you. Donovan felt cold fury wash through him. I see. I was not informed of this change. Given the circumstances and Aiden's distress, I thought it best to contact you directly. She hesitated. We've noticed behavioral changes in both your children recently. Zoe's teacher mentioned she seems withdrawn, and now this incident with Aiden. I appreciate your concern, Donovan said formally. May I take Aiden home now? Of course. I'll need to schedule a follow-up meeting with both parents, but that can wait until tomorrow. As they drove away, Donovan called Ariana from the car's Bluetooth. Change of plans, he said before she could speak. I need you to file for emergency temporary custody today. I'm taking the kids to my apartment. Donovan, that's not. They removed me as emergency contact without notification. Aiden is having violent outbursts. Zoe is withdrawing. This qualifies as emotional harm under state statutes. Ariana was silent for a moment. Bring Aiden to my office. I'll have the paperwork ready. For hours later, armed with an emergency custody order signed by Judge Weber herself, Donovan returned to the family home to collect both children and essential belongings. Layla's face drained of color when she opened the door to find Donovan flanked by a sheriff's deputy and Ariana. What is this? She demanded. Emergency custody order, the deputy explained, handed her the document. Mr. Mercer has temporary physical custody of the minor children, pending an emergency hearing. You can't do this. Layla's voice rose hysterically. I just did, Donovan replied calmly. Zoe, Aiden, pack overnight bags, please. You're staying with me for a while. As the children raced upstairs, Vance appeared from the kitchen, face contorted with rage. This is ridiculous. We have a signed custody agreement, which you violated repeatedly, Ariana interjected smoothly. Parental alienation, unauthorized changing of emergency contacts, emotional distress to the children. Shall I continue? You're making a mistake, Vance hissed at Donovan. No, Donovan replied with deadly calm. You made the mistake. You tried to take my children. As they left with the excited children, Donovan caught Layla's bewildered expression. For the first time, she was seeing through the mask of compliance he'd worn these past weeks. The man who would do whatever made her happy was gone. In his place stood a father who would burn the world to protect his children. And he was just getting started. Chapter 4, Counterattack. The morning after executing the emergency custody order, Donovan woke to small feet padding into his workshop apartment. Zoe and Aiden, still in pajamas, climbed onto his bed with matching expressions of uncertainty. Is this real, Daddy? Zoe asked. Are we really staying with you now? Donovan pulled them close. For now, yes. There's going to be a special meeting at the courthouse to decide what happens next. Will we have to go back to Mom and... Aiden couldn't bring himself to say Vance's name. I don't know yet, buddy, but I promise I'm doing everything possible to make sure we stay together. After breakfast, While the children settled into the living area with books and toys, Donovan checked his surveillance feeds. The cameras captured Layla and Vance in the midst of a heated argument. How did he get emergency custody? Layla demanded, pacing the kitchen. You said the agreement was ironclad. Your ex obviously has better legal representation than we anticipated, Vance replied, his customary smoothness fraying at the edges. But this is merely a setback. The emergency hearing is in 3 days. A setback? Vance, he took our children. Your children, Vance corrected sharply. And we'll get them back. Then we'll make sure he never sees them again. Layla stopped pacing. What do you mean? We'll file for supervised visitation only, citing emotional manipulation and parental alienation. The same tactics he's using against us. But that would be lying. Vance grabbed her shoulders. It's about winning, Layla. Do you want your children raised by a man who spends his days covered in sawdust, or by someone who can introduce them to culture, refinement, opportunities? Layla's response was too quiet for the microphone to catch, but her body language, shoulders slumping in defeat, told Donovan everything he needed to know. Whatever independent thought she might have entertained was being systematically eroded by Vance's manipulation. Donovan switched cameras, checking each child's bedroom. In Aiden's room, nothing seemed disturbed. But in Zoe's room, Vance was going through her desk drawers, removing papers and examining each one. What are you looking for? Layla appeared in the doorway. Vance didn't look up. Evidence that Donovan has been planning this. Correspondence, notes, anything we can use to show premeditation. Why would Zoe have that? Children unwittingly become couriers. Vance held up a handmade card. Like this. Love you always, no matter what happens. Dated 3 weeks ago. That's evidence of planned parental alienation. That's just Donovan being affectionate, Layla protested. He's always made cards for the kids. Vance pocketed the card anyway. You're too close to see his manipulation. Trust me, Donovan had seen enough. He closed the laptop and called Ariana. They're searching the children's rooms for evidence of alienation, he reported, and planning to file false claims about me. We need to accelerate our timeline. Already done, Ariana replied. After reviewing your footage from the past week, Judge Weber has expanded the emergency hearing. It's now a full custody determination with character witnesses. That's unexpected. Weber has a history with cases like this. Once she sees evidence of systematic alienation, she fast-tracks proceedings to minimize emotional damage to the children. After hanging up, Donovan received a text from Reed Ferris. Sealed juvenile records accessed. Call immediately. 30 minutes later, Reed arrived at the workshop with a thick folder. While the children played outside under Brian's supervision, Reed spread documents across Donovan's kitchen table. Vance Hollister was born Vincent Harding, Reed began. At 17, he was arrested for running an elaborate scam targeting elderly widows. No jail time due to his age, but the pattern was established early. He'd charm vulnerable women, gain their confidence, then systematically drain their bank accounts. Donovan examined the police reports. Why change his name? The judge sealed his record on condition he relocate and sever ties with known associates. He legally changed his name after college. And his gallery business? Reed's smile was grim. A sophisticated laundering operation. He uses the gallery to overvalue artwork, sells it to wealthy clients seeking tax write-offs, then splits the difference when they donate the valuable pieces to institutions. Is Layla involved? No evidence suggests she knows. In fact, her previously stable finances have deteriorated significantly since their relationship began. Credit card debt, missing retirement contributions, unexplained cash withdrawals. Donovan sorted through bank statements. He's bleeding her dry and positioning himself to access your assets through the children, Reed confirmed. The adoption angle makes perfect sense now. That afternoon, Donovan met with Ariana to review their strategy for the hearing. As they finalized preparations, his phone rang. Tessa, her voice tight with alarm. Layla and Vance just showed up at my apartment. They're demanding I sign an affidavit claiming you've been planning to take the children for months. They don't know we've been talking. What reason did they give for coming to you? Donovan asked, putting the call on speaker for Ariana's benefit. Vance said family should support family. When I refused, he implied my gallery position might be reevaluated if I don't cooperate. You work at his gallery? Part-time. It's my main source of income right now. Tessa's voice wavered. Donovan, they're waiting in my living room. What should I do? Ariana leaned forward. Ms. Monroe, this is Ariana Dunn, Donovan's attorney. Are you willing to sign a counter-affidavit about this coercion attempt? Absolutely. But I can't lose my job before the hearing. I have rent due. Sign whatever they put in front of you, Ariana advised. We'll address the coercion in court. And Ms. Monroe, if you have the ability to record this conversation without their knowledge, I strongly suggest you do so. After hanging up, Ariana turned to Donovan. This is actually helpful. Witness tampering is a serious offense in family court. The next day, Donovan was preparing the children's lunch when his phone exploded with notifications. Bryant called immediately. Have you seen the news? What news? Mercer Custom Furniture is being accused of using stolen designs. It's all over social media and local business pages. Donovan froze. What? Someone filed complaints with the Business Bureau claiming your signature woodland collection was plagiarized from a European designer. They've provided evidence of earlier similar designs. That's impossible. The woodland collection is completely original. I know that, Brian interrupted. But 3 clients have already called asking about the allegations. The Hamilton hotel chain is threatening to cancel their lobby commission. Donovan's mind raced. This is Vance. He's attacking my business to undermine my financial stability before the hearing. What do? Forward everything to Ariana and Reed. Then call Maurice at the design patent office. He can verify our original filing dates. No sooner had he hung up than Layla's name appeared on his caller ID. What have you done to Vance's gallery? She demanded without preamble. What are you talking about? The health department showed up for a surprise inspection this morning. They're threatening to shut down the gallery cafe over supposed code violations. I had nothing to do with that, Donovan replied truthfully. Really? Just like you had nothing to do with stealing our children? Or filing false emergency orders? Layla's voice cracked. I don't even recognize you anymore, Donovan. Funny. I was thinking the same about you. After disconnecting, Donovan immediately called Reed. Did you report Vance's gallery to the health department? No. Reed sounded perplexed. But I may have mentioned his questionable art valuation practices to a friend at the IRS yesterday. The health department is unexpected collateral damage. The next 48 hours saw escalating attacks from both sides. Vance's gallery received visits from various regulatory agencies. Donovan's business website was hacked, his portfolio replaced with pornographic images. Layla's teaching license was flagged for review due to an anonymous ethics complaint. Brian's car was vandalized in the workshop parking lot. By the time the custody hearing arrived, both sides were battle-scarred and hostile. Donovan arrived with the children, who would wait with a court-appointed guardian during proceedings. Across the courtroom, Layla sat beside Vance, her face pale and drawn. Behind them sat an expensively dressed older couple Donovan didn't recognize. Judge Rosalind Weber entered, a stern woman in her 60s with piercing eyes that missed nothing. These proceedings have already generated more filings than most divorce cases, she noted dryly. I've reviewed the emergency order, the original custody agreement, and the subsequent allegations from both parties. She peered over her glasses at the assembled attorneys. Before we proceed, I want to be absolutely clear. My sole concern is the welfare of the children. Any attempt to use them as pawns in your adult conflicts will be met with my extreme displeasure. Layla's attorney, a nervous young man named Martin Shepard, rose first, outlining their case for upholding the original custody agreement. He emphasized Donovan's demanding work schedule, Layla's primary caregiver status, and the stable home environment she and Vance provided. When Ariana rose, she took a different approach. Your Honor, rather than making claims, we prefer to present evidence. She nodded to a court technician who wheeled in a large monitor. With the court's permission, we've compiled video evidence that directly contradicts the assertions made by opposing counsel. Judge Weber frowned. Video evidence is unusual in these proceedings, Ms. Dunn. The circumstances are unusual, Your Honor. We have documented evidence of systematic parental alienation, coercion, and false statements made by the respondents. I'll allow it, but be concise. For the next 20 minutes, the courtroom watched in growing silence as carefully selected clips played. Vance instructing the children to call him Dad. Layla removing Donovan's photographs from the children's rooms. Vance searching Zoe's belongings for evidence. The argument about erasing all traces of Donovan from home. Most damning was the recorded conversation from Tessa's apartment, where Vance explicitly threatened her employment if she wouldn't sign a false affidavit. When the videos concluded, Judge Weber's expression had hardened to granite. She turned to Layla's attorney. Does your client wish to explain these recordings, Mr. Shepard? The young lawyer conferred frantically with Layla and Vance. Finally, he stood. Your Honor, we question the legality of these recordings, made without consent in a private residence. The residence belongs to Mr. Mercer as well as Ms. Mercer, Ariana countered smoothly. Under state law, he has the right to monitor his own property. Judge Weber nodded. The recordings are admissible. Now, does your client wish to respond to their content? Before the attorney could answer, the courtroom doors opened, and a man in a dark suit entered, approaching the bench with a document. Your Honor, I'm Special Agent Daniel Rhodes with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have a warrant for the arrest of Vincent Harding, also known as Vance Hollister, on charges of wire fraud, tax evasion, and art forgery. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Vance leapt to his feet, his face contorted in fury. This is a setup, he shouted, pointing at Donovan. He orchestrated this entire thing. Mr. Hollister, Judge Weber's voice cut through the noise like a whip. Control yourself, or I'll have you removed. The FBI agent continued calmly. The investigation into Mr. Hollister's gallery operations has been ongoing for 14 months. Today's arrest is the culmination of that investigation and unrelated to these proceedings. As Vance was handcuffed and led away, Layla sat frozen in shock. The well-dressed couple behind her, apparently Vance's parents, slipped quietly from the courtroom. Judge Weber called a 30-minute recess. When proceedings resumed, Layla sat alone with her attorney, her face tear-streaked but composed. In light of these extraordinary developments, Judge Weber began. Does the respondent wish to amend her position regarding custody? Layla's attorney conferred with her briefly, then rose. Your Honor, my client wishes to withdraw her claim for full custody and proposes a return to shared custody arrangements, with the family home remaining the children's primary residence. Donovan felt a surge of hope, but Ariana remained impassive beside him. Ms. Dunn, Judge Weber turned to them. Your client's position? Ariana stood. Your Honor, given the documented evidence of parental alienation and the psychological impact on the children, we maintain our request for full physical custody to Mr. Mercer, with supervised visitation for Ms. Mercer until family counseling has been completed. Judge Weber nodded thoughtfully. Mr. Mercer, would you stand, please? Donovan rose, meeting the judge's evaluating gaze steadily. I've reviewed your personal and financial information, she said. Your business is successful but demands significant time commitment. How do you propose to manage full-time parenting responsibilities? I've restructured my business operations, Your Honor. Bryant Walsh, my partner, has assumed management of production while I focus on design work, which can be done from my home office with flexible hours. Additionally, I've arranged my schedule to align with school hours, with contingency childcare for my mother-in-law, Ruth Monroe, who has submitted an affidavit supporting this arrangement. Judge Weber turned to Layla. Ms. Mercer, would you stand? Layla rose unsteadily. The evidence presented today shows troubling judgment on your part, Judge Weber stated bluntly. You permitted, and at times facilitated, systematic attempts to alienate your children from their father. You made unilateral decisions about their welfare without consultation. You removed their father as emergency contact without notification. These actions demonstrate a concerning pattern. Layla's shoulders slumped. I was influenced, Your Honor. I see that now. A parent's first responsibility is to protect their children, including from damaging influences. Judge Weber shuffled her papers. I'm ready to rule on temporary custody pending final divorce proceedings. The courtroom fell silent. Physical custody of Zoe and Aiden Mercer is granted to Donovan Mercer. Layla Mercer is granted supervised visitation 3 days per week to take place at the family home. Both parents will participate in family counseling with a reconciliation assessment after 90 days. She fixed both parents with a stern gaze. This arrangement is temporary. Your permanent custody arrangement will depend entirely on your behavior during these 90 days. I strongly suggest you both focus exclusively on what benefits your children, not on winning against each other. As Judge Weber adjourned the proceedings, Donovan felt a complex mixture of emotions. Victory, certainly, but also sadness for what his family had endured. Across the courtroom, Layla sat alone, all her certainties stripped away. For the first time since this ordeal began, Donovan allowed himself to feel a flicker of compassion for her. She had been manipulated by a master con artist. The question now was whether she could recognize that manipulation and rebuild her relationship with her children, and perhaps, eventually, a civil co-parenting relationship with him. As he left to collect Zoe and Aiden, Donovan knew the battle wasn't truly over. The court of law had ruled in his favor, but the court of family emotions would take much longer to resolve. For now, though, his children were safe. His home would soon be theirs again. And Vance Hollister's attempt to steal his family had ended in handcuffs and disgrace. It wasn't the whatever makes you happy that Layla had expected. But for Donovan and his children, it was justice. Chapter 5, Collateral Damage. The morning after the custody hearing, Donovan woke to small arms wrapped around him and small voices asking for pancakes. For the first time in weeks, the weight on his chest felt lighter. His children were safe. The immediate threat of Vance had been neutralized, but as he mixed batter and heated the griddle, he knew their ordeal wasn't over. Midway through breakfast, his phone rang. Tessa Monroe, Layla's sister. I've been with Layla all night, she said without preamble. She's a mess, Donovan. The FBI interviewed her for hours about Vance's business operations. Donovan stepped away from the table, lowering his voice. Is she implicated? No. They seemed satisfied she knew nothing. But they've frozen the gallery accounts, including employee paychecks. I'm effectively unemployed, and Layla's checking account is empty. Empty? That doesn't make sense. Her teacher's pension and savings should. Gone, Tessa interrupted. Vance systematically drained her accounts over the past few months. Joint investment accounts, credit card cash advances, even a second mortgage on your house that she never knew about. Donovan's grip tightened on the phone. He mortgaged our house without her knowledge? That's not legally possible. Apparently, it is when you have a partner in the county records office. The FBI found forged signatures on multiple documents. Layla's not just heartbroken, she's destitute. After hanging up, Donovan stood at the kitchen window, watching his children eat breakfast, lost in thought. Layla had made terrible choices, had been willing to separate their children from their father. But she had also been the victim of an accomplished con man who had systematically undermined her judgment and drained her resources. What did he owe her now? Legally, nothing. Emotionally? That was more complicated. His phone rang again. Ariana, with news from Judge Weber's chambers. The supervised visitation schedule begins today, she informed him. 3 days a week, from 3 to 7 p.m. at the family home, with Ruth Monroe as the court-approved supervisor. Today? That's fast. Judge Weber believes maintaining parent-child relationships is paramount. She wants normalized contact resumed immediately. There's a complication. Donovan explained Layla's financial situation. She doesn't even have money for groceries, let alone legal fees. Ariana was silent for a moment. Your generosity is commendable, Donovan, but remember, she was willing to erase you from your children's lives. Under Vance's influence, her choices were still her own. Ariana sighed. That said, your children benefit from having a stable, functional mother. Judge Weber would view financial support positively during the reconciliation assessment. After further discussion of legal technicalities, Donovan made a decision. He transferred funds to cover Layla's immediate needs, explicitly labeled as child support advance, then called Ruth Monroe to discuss the visitation arrangements. "I'm not taking sides in this mess," the older woman stated firmly. "I'm here for my grandchildren, not to referee between you and Layla." "I wouldn't ask you to," Donovan assured her. "I just need someone the children trust to make sure they're comfortable during visits." That afternoon, Donovan brought the children to the family home for their first supervised visit. Layla opened the door looking pale and drawn, but her face lit up at the sight of Zoe and Aiden. "My babies," she whispered, kneeling to embrace them. The reunion was awkward at first, the children wary, Layla overeager, Ruth watchful from the background. Donovan stayed only long enough to settle them in, then retreated to his workshop to give the fragile family reconstruction space to develop. Hours later, when he returned to collect the children, he found them sitting with Layla at the kitchen table, his craftsmanship, building a Lego structure together. For a moment, watching through the window, he could almost imagine the past months hadn't happened. The illusion shattered when Aiden spotted him. "Daddy, look what Mom helped us build. It's your workshop." The Lego creation did indeed resemble his barn-turned studio, down to the tiny furniture pieces made from different color blocks. Layla stood as he entered. "They wanted to make something for you." Her voice held no hostility, only exhaustion and something like remorse. Behind her, Ruth gave a small nod of approval. "It's fantastic," Donovan told the children, examining their creation with appropriate enthusiasm. As they gathered their things to leave, Layla touched his arm tentatively. "Thank you for the money. You didn't have to do that." "It's for the kids," he replied, not unkindly. "They need both parents stable." Over the next 2 weeks, a fragile routine established itself. Donovan managed his business and cared for the children. 3 days a week, they visited Layla at the family home under Ruth's supervision. Twice weekly, both parents attended counseling sessions with Dr. Eleanor Weiss, court-appointed family therapist. The first sessions were tense, filled with recriminations and defensive posturing. But gradually, with Dr. Weiss's skilled guidance, they began addressing the real issues. "Layla, can you articulate why you were susceptible to Vance's influence?" Dr. Weiss asked during their third session. Layla stared at her hands. "I felt invisible. Donovan was building his business, always working or talking about work. The children were getting older, needing me less. Vance made me feel seen again. And did you consider how your decisions would impact your children?" I told myself they would adapt, that having a stepfather who was present was better than a father who was always working. Layla's voice faltered. "I was wrong. So wrong." Donovan leaned forward. "I work hard to provide security for our family, but I never intended for you to feel invisible." Did you communicate these feelings to Donovan before involving Vance in family decisions? Dr. Weiss pressed. Layla shook her head mutely. Progress was slow but steady. Outside the counseling sessions, however, practical realities created new tensions. The FBI investigation into Vance's gallery operations revealed extensive financial fraud implicating several prominent community members. Local media coverage was relentless, with reporters staking out both the family home and Donovan's workshop. The children, initially sheltered from the scandal, eventually encountered it through school playground gossip. Aiden came home in tears after being teased about his criminal almost stepdad. Zoe, more reserved, stopped participating in class discussions. Donovan consulted Dr. Weiss, who arranged additional counseling for the children and advised careful, age-appropriate honesty about the situation. They need to understand this isn't their fault, she emphasized, and that sometimes adults make serious mistakes. Meanwhile, Layla struggled to rebuild her life. The second mortgage Vance had fraudulently obtained against the family home complicated her housing situation. When the bank initiated foreclosure proceedings, Donovan faced a difficult decision. "You have options," Ariana advised during an emergency consultation. "You could let the foreclosure proceed, purchase the property yourself at auction, or pay off the fraudulent mortgage to protect your ownership interest." And Layla, legally, she committed no fraud. but she's still party to the existing original mortgage. If you save the house, you're essentially helping her avoid homelessness. Donovan thought of his children, of the home he'd renovated with his own hands, of the workshop where he'd built his business. I'll pay it off, he decided, but I want full ownership transferred to me as part of the divorce settlement, with Layla granted living rights during the custody reconciliation period. Ariana nodded approvingly. That's fair and generous while protecting your interests. The divorce proceedings progressed in parallel with the custody reconciliation process. Donovan maintained his focus on the children's welfare, navigating the complex emotional terrain with as much grace as he could muster. Not everyone understood his approach. Bryant challenged him during a rare night out. After everything she did, you're letting her live in your house rent-free? Paying off her fraudulent mortgage? Man, where's your self-respect? Donovan sipped his beer. It's not about her. It's about Zoe and Aiden. They need stability, not more chaos. But the cameras, the recordings, you were ready to destroy her in court. I was ready to do whatever necessary to protect my children, Donovan corrected. Now they need a healthy relationship with their mother. Bryant shook his head. You're a better man than I would be. 6 weeks into the reconciliation period, just as things seemed to be stabilizing, a new crisis emerged. Donovan received an urgent call from Tessa while in a client meeting. They've arrested Ruth, she blurted. FBI agents showed up during Layla's visitation with the kids. They took Ruth in for questioning about art appraisals for Vance's gallery. Donovan's blood ran cold. The children. Layla called me. I'm with them now, but they're pretty shaken up, especially Zoe. She tried to stop the agents from taking her grandmother. Donovan rushed to the family home, finding his children huddled together on the sofa while Layla and Tessa spoke in hurried whispers in the kitchen. What happened, he demanded. Layla turned to him, eyes red-rimmed. They said Mom's signature appears on fraudulent appraisals for artwork Vance sold to tax evaders. They think she was part of a scheme. That's impossible, Donovan said flatly. Ruth wouldn't be involved in fraud. I know that, Layla snapped, then took a deep breath. Sorry, They handcuffed her in front of the children, Donovan. Together, they tried to comfort Zoe and Aiden, explaining in simplified terms that sometimes mistakes happen and grandmother would be home soon. When the children finally settled for naps, exhausted from emotional overload, the adults regrouped. We need a lawyer for Ruth, Tessa said. A good one. I'll call Ariana, Donovan offered. She can recommend a criminal defense attorney. Layla nodded gratefully. Thank you. I can't. I don't have. It's okay, Donovan assured her. We'll figure this out. For the next 72 hours, the crisis consumed them. Reed Ferris discovered that Vance had indeed forged Ruth's signature on multiple documents, but the FBI needed convincing. Ariana connected them with Preston Matthews, a formidable defense attorney who specialized in white-collar crime. With the children staying at Donovan's apartment full-time during the crisis, he and Layla found themselves working together for the first time in months, united by concern for Ruth and the children's welfare. On the third day, as they sorted through Ruth's financial records looking for exonerating evidence, Layla paused. I don't deserve your help, she said quietly. After everything I did, Donovan continued examining bank statements. This isn't about deserving. It's about doing what's right for everyone involved. You installed cameras in our home, Layla said, not accusingly but with genuine curiosity. You recorded our private conversations. You were prepared for war. Yes. Yet now you're helping me, helping my mother. What? Donovan finally looked up. Because despite everything, we're still a family. Not as husband and wife anymore, but as Zoe and Aiden's parents. That connection can't be erased, no matter what Vance tried to make you believe. Layla's eyes filled with tears. I was such a fool. We both made mistakes, Donovan acknowledged. But right now, we need to focus on clearing your mother's name and stabilizing our children's lives. By the end of the week, Preston Matthews had secured Ruth's release. The FBI accepted evidence that her signatures had been forged, though she remained a person of interest in the ongoing investigation. The experience changed something fundamental in the family dynamic. While the divorce proceedings continued, The hostility that had characterized the early custody battle dissipated. In its place grew something unexpected. Not reconciliation, but a tentative mutual respect. During their next counseling session, Dr. Weiss observed the shift. "You two have made remarkable progress," she noted. "How do you feel about the current custody arrangement?" "It's working," Donovan offered. "The children are settling into the routine." "I agree," Layla said. "They seem more secure now that they know they'll have consistent time with both of us." Dr. Weiss made notes on her pad. "And the supervised aspect of visitation? Do you feel that's still necessary?" Donovan and Layla exchanged glances. It was Donovan who finally spoke. Given recent events with Ruth's arrest and the ongoing media attention, having another adult present during transitions has been helpful for the children. But I don't think Layla needs supervision for the children's safety anymore. Layla's expression registered surprise, then gratitude. "I'll recommend to Judge Weber that supervision be lifted," Dr. Weiss decided. "But I suggest maintaining the current residence arrangement through the rest of the reconciliation period for stability." As they left the session, Layla touched Donovan's arm. "Thank you," she said simply, "for believing I'm not a danger to our children." "You're their mother," Donovan replied. "You made terrible choices under Vance's influence, but you've never been a danger to them." The fragile peace they'd established held through the remainder of the reconciliation period. By the time they returned to Judge Weber's courtroom for the final custody determination, both parents had submitted identical requests for joint legal custody with alternating physical custody. Judge Weber reviewed their proposal with evident approval. This arrangement demonstrates remarkable maturity and focus on the children's best interests, especially given where we started. "Before issuing my final order, do either of you wish to make a statement?" Layla stood first. "Your Honor, I want to acknowledge the pain and disruption my choices caused my children and their father. The past months have been a difficult but necessary lesson in recognizing manipulation and standing up for what truly matters: my children's welfare and their relationship with both parents." When Donovan rose, he spoke with quiet certainty. "Your Honor, families take many forms. While our marriage couldn't be saved, our commitment to parenting together remains unbroken. The arrangement we've proposed reflects our shared priority, giving Zoe and Aiden the security of two parents who, despite everything, still respect each other enough to collaborate for their benefit." Judge Weber nodded approvingly. "Motion granted. Joint legal and physical custody is awarded according to the submitted schedule. This court retains jurisdiction for 1 year to address any implementation issues, but I don't anticipate any." She smiled at both parents. "You've turned a potentially devastating situation into an opportunity for growth and cooperative parenting. Your children are fortunate indeed." Outside the courtroom, as Zoe and Aiden celebrated with Ruth and Tessa, Donovan and Layla stood apart from the family group. "So that's it," Layla said softly. "Officially co-parents, not spouses." "It's a good outcome," Donovan replied. "Better than I expected 6 months ago. When you said whatever makes you happy and secretly installed cameras," Donovan smiled slightly. "That wasn't my finest moment." "Neither was trying to give away your children to please a con artist," Layla acknowledged. "For what it's worth, I am sorry, Donovan. Truly sorry. I know. And for what it's worth, I forgive you." They watched their children, laughing, whole, secure in the knowledge that both parents would remain constants in their lives. "You never really gave up, did you?" Layla asked suddenly. "Even when you signed that first agreement, you were already planning your counterattack." "I never considered giving up my children an option," Donovan confirmed. "Not for a second. That's what I never understood about Vance's plan," Layla mused. "Anyone who really knew you would understand that about you. You build things to last. You don't surrender what matters." They rejoined their children and extended family, no longer husband and wife, but forever connected by the family they had created together, damaged by betrayal, strengthened by crisis, and ultimately rebuilt with the same care Donovan brought to his finest creations. It wasn't the outcome either had envisioned when they'd married, but as they watched their children race ahead, secure in the knowledge that both parents remained foundations in their lives, it felt, if not perfect, at least solid. Built to last. Chapter 6. House of Cards. 8 months after the final custody arrangement, life had found a new rhythm. The divorce was finalized, with Donovan retaining ownership of the family home and Layla purchasing a smaller house 10 minutes away. The children alternated weeks between households, with family dinners on Sundays to ease transitions. Professionally, Donovan's business had not only recovered from Vance's attacks, but thrived as several gallery clients, burned by the fraud scandal, commissioned pieces directly from Mercer Custom Furniture instead. The Hamilton hotel chain contract, temporarily suspended during the legal battles, was reinstated and expanded to include 3 additional properties. On this particular Thursday evening, Donovan was finishing dinner with Zoe and Aiden during his custody week when his phone rang. Preston Matthews, Ruth Monroe's attorney. The FBI is reopening their investigation into the gallery fraud, Preston reported without preamble. They've uncovered new evidence suggesting Vance had a silent partner, someone who provided the initial capital and connections to wealthy clients. Donovan moved to his workshop office, closing the door. How does this affect Ruth? It doesn't directly. She's been cleared. But they're interviewing everyone connected to the gallery again, including Layla and Tessa. Why tell me? I had no connection to the gallery. Preston's hesitation was audible, because they've uncovered financial transactions between Vance and Harold Darrow, Layla's father. Donovan's surprise was genuine. Harold Darrow had died 3 years earlier after a prolonged battle with Alzheimer's. The family relationship had been strained at best, with Harold largely absent from his daughters' lives after divorcing Ruth when the girls were teenagers. It appears Vance's gallery was originally funded with Darrow family money. The FBI believes Harold may have been a silent partner before his cognitive decline. They're investigating whether assets rightfully belonging to Layla and Tessa were diverted to the gallery frauds. After hanging up, Donovan sat in stunned silence. If Harold Darrow had been Vance's original partner, had Vance targeted Layla specifically because of her family connection? Was their entire relationship a calculated move to access Darrow family assets? His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. FBI coming tomorrow to ask about Dad's relationship with Vance. Did you know about this? He replied simply, just heard from Preston. No, I had no idea. The next evening, Donovan dropped the children at Layla's house for their scheduled weekend visit. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying. They think Dad was financing Vance's fraud for years, she said quietly as the children settled in the living room. That Vance sought me out because of my father. That's speculation, Donovan cautioned. The FBI is investigating possible connections, not confirmed facts. It makes sense though, doesn't it? Dad's sudden interest in art during his last lucid years. The way Vance appeared at that gallery fundraiser and singled me out. It was never about me at all. Donovan hesitated. Despite everything, seeing Layla's pain stirred unwelcome protective instincts. Don't do this to yourself, he advised gently. Whatever Vance's initial motivations, your worth isn't determined by his calculations. Layla managed a weak smile. When did you become so wise? Around the time I stopped saying whatever makes you happy and started focusing on what actually matters. Over the following weeks, the FBI investigation intensified. Financial forensics revealed that substantial Darrow family assets had indeed been diverted to Vance's gallery operations through offshore accounts and shell companies. As Harold's cognitive abilities declined, Vance had apparently sought control through Layla, hoping to access the remaining family trusts. The revelation devastated both Monroe sisters. Tessa threw herself into assisting the investigation, determined to recover whatever assets could be salvaged. Layla withdrew emotionally, her hard-won stability threatening to crumble under this new betrayal. Donovan noticed the impact on the children immediately. Aiden became clingy during transitions to Layla's house, while Zoe grew anxious about her mother's emotional state. Mom cries a lot when she thinks we're asleep, Zoe confided during their drive to school. Is she going to go to jail like Vance? Absolutely not, Donovan assured her. Your mom didn't do anything wrong. She's just sad about learning some difficult truths. About Grandpa Harold? Yes, and about Vance. It's hard to learn someone you trusted was lying to you. Zoe considered this thoughtfully. Like how Mom trusted Vance, but he was really just after Grandpa's money? Donovan winced at her precocious understanding. Something like that. But it's not your job to worry about adult problems, okay? That evening, he called Dr. Weiss for guidance. They had continued family therapy even after the custody arrangement was finalized, finding it valuable for navigating co-parenting challenges. The children are picking up on Layla's distress, he explained. I don't want to overstep boundaries, but I'm concerned. Your concern is appropriate, Dr. Weiss affirmed. Have you spoken directly with Layla about how this is affecting the children? Not yet. Our communication has improved, but this feels complicated. Dr. Weiss was silent for a moment. Donovan, you've done remarkable work establishing healthy co-parenting boundaries. But sometimes children's needs require flexibility. If you believe Layla's emotional state is impacting Zoe and Aiden, direct communication is your best approach. After considering Dr. Weiss's advice, Donovan texted Layla, "Can we talk tomorrow? Just us about the kids." Her reply came quickly. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing urgent. Just want to check in. Coffee at River's Edge at 10? Okay." The next morning, they met at the small cafe overlooking the river that divided their town. Layla arrived, looking exhausted but composed. "The kids are worried about you," Donovan began after they'd ordered. "Zoe says you cry at night. Aiden's becoming anxious about transitions." Layla stared into her coffee. "I thought I was hiding it better. Children are perceptive. They don't need to understand the FBI investigation to sense your distress. What should I do? Pretend everything's fine when my entire life feels like one massive manipulation? My father, Vance, maybe even my childhood was built on fraud." Donovan chose his words carefully. "Your relationship with your father was complicated long before Vance appeared. His financial dealings don't change who you are or what you mean to the children. But that's just it. Who am I, Donovan? The woman who abandoned teaching to work at her boyfriend's fraudulent gallery? The daughter of a man who funded our forgeries? The ex-wife who tried to take your children away?" Her voice cracked. "Every role I thought defined me has been tainted." "You're still their mother," Donovan said firmly. "That hasn't changed and never will. Right now, they need you to be stable, present, and reassuring." Layla wiped away tears. "I'm trying. But the FBI interviews, the shocked looks from friends, the newspaper articles, it's overwhelming." Donovan considered her with newfound insight. During their marriage, Layla had always sought external validation from parents, colleagues, friends. With those foundations crumbling, she was struggling to find solid ground. "See Dr. Weiss individually," he suggested. "She's helped me tremendously with perspective. And maybe consider taking the children somewhere for a weekend, away from the investigation and local gossip." "I can't afford a trip right now," Layla admitted. "Most of my savings went to the down payment on the house, and the legal fees from the custody battle drained the rest." Donovan didn't hesitate. "Use the lake cabin. It's peaceful there, and the children love it." "Your family cabin? Are you sure? It's still half yours until the divorce property division is finalized. Besides, the children's well-being matters more than property lines." Layla studied him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "You really have changed, haven't you?" The old Donovan would have held every asset hostage after what I did. The old Donovan was so focused on building security through his business that he missed the security crumbling at home, he acknowledged. "We've both changed." The conversation shifted to practical matters, the cabin details, what activities might help distract the children, how to address their questions about the investigation. By the time they parted, a tentative plan was in place, and Layla seemed marginally more centered. That night, Donovan updated Dr. Weiss on their conversation. "Offering the cabin was generous," she commented, "and potentially risky given your history. The risk seems minimal compared to the benefit for the children." And for Layla, Dr. Weiss noted, "Your capacity for compassion towards someone who caused you significant pain is remarkable." Donovan considered this. "It's not really compassion. It's pragmatism. Layla's well-being directly impacts my children's well-being." "Perhaps. But many divorced parents in your position would focus solely on their time with the children, leaving the other parent to manage their own problems. That approach seems short-sighted. Dr. Weiss smiled. And that perspective is precisely why your family is healing. The weekend at the lake cabin proved transformative. Layla and the children returned sunburned and smiling, with stories of hiking adventures and board game marathons. Aiden's anxiety about transitions noticeably decreased, while Zoe reported proudly that Mom only cried once, and it was because she was laughing so hard when I fell in the lake. As summer approached, the family settled into a new normal. The FBI investigation continued, but its immediate impact on their daily lives diminished. Vance remained in custody awaiting trial, his bail denied due to flight risk concerns. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday in June, everything shifted again. Donovan received an urgent call from Tessa while in a client meeting. They've arrested Charles Hollister, Vance's father, she reported breathlessly. And they're questioning his mother, Marion. The FBI believes they were involved in the fraud scheme from the beginning. How does this affect Layla or Ruth? It doesn't directly, but Donovan, they found evidence that Harold wasn't Vance's original partner. He was his target, just like Layla was. The Hollisters have apparently been running this same scheme for decades, using their son to establish relationships with wealthy families, then systematically draining their assets. Donovan absorbed this information with growing concern. Have you told Layla? Not yet. She's teaching summer school today. I wanted to talk to you first because, well, this might actually be good news for her emotionally. It means our father wasn't complicit in fraud. He was a victim, just like Layla. That is significant, Donovan agreed. But it could also re-traumatize her to learn how calculated this whole thing was. They agreed Tessa would tell Layla in person that evening, with Dr. Weiss on standby for support if needed. The revelation about the Hollisters proved both healing and horrifying for Layla. While relieved that her father hadn't been a willing participant in fraud, the discovery that Vance's parents had orchestrated similar cons with multiple families over decades was deeply disturbing. They raised him to do this, she told Donovan during their next custody exchange. His whole life was training for identifying and exploiting vulnerable wealthy families. I wasn't special, just a convenient target because of Dad's assets. That doesn't diminish your worth, Donovan reminded her, echoing their earlier conversation. If anything, it confirms that none of this was your fault. The arrest of the Hollisters altered the trajectory of Vance's case. Facing overwhelming evidence and hoping for leniency, he accepted a plea deal that implicated his parents in decades of fraud. The subsequent trials became national news, with journalists descending on their small community to interview anyone connected to the case. Donovan fiercely protected the children from media attention, working with Layla to maintain their routine despite the chaos. When a particularly aggressive reporter ambushed Zoe outside her summer math camp, Donovan and Layla jointly obtained a restraining order against the entire news organization. By the time fall arrived, bringing with it Vance's sentencing hearing, the worst of the media frenzy had subsided. The Hollister family received substantial prison terms, with Vance facing 15 years for his role in multiple frauds. As the various legal proceedings concluded, Layla experienced what Dr. Weiss described as post-traumatic growth. She returned to teaching full-time, rebuilt relationships damaged during her time with Vance, and focused intently on conscious, present parenting. Donovan, watching her transformation from a respectful distance, found himself admiring her resilience. The woman who had once been willing to surrender their children to please a manipulative partner had become a fiercely protective mother who scheduled her entire life around their needs. 1 year after the custody hearing that had begun their journey toward co-parenting, Donovan and Layla sat together at Zoe's mathematics competition. As their daughter confidently solved complex equations on stage, Layla leaned over to whisper, "Thank you." For what? For not giving up on me as their mother, even when I deserved it. For seeing beyond that terrible version of myself that Vance cultivated. Donovan considered this. "I didn't do it for you," he said honestly. "I did it for them. But I'm glad it benefited you too. I know. And that's what makes you a good father and a good man." They returned their attention to the stage, where Zoe was receiving a first-place ribbon. Her triumphant smile encompassed both parents equally, secure in the knowledge that whatever had transpired between them, their love for her remained constant. Later that night, after the children were asleep in their rooms at Donovan's house, he sat in his workshop reviewing designs for a new commission. His phone buzzed with a text from Layla. Zoe left her competition notebook at my house. Need it for school tomorrow. Can I drop it off? He replied, I'm still up. Workshop door is open. 20 minutes later, Layla arrived, notebook in hand. She paused in the doorway, surveying the familiar space where Donovan had always been most himself. Still burning the midnight oil, she observed, setting the notebook on his desk. Some things never change. Some things shouldn't, he replied, saving his design file. Coffee. They sat on the workshop deck, steaming mugs in hand, the night air crisp with approaching autumn. The conversation moved easily between updates about the children, Layla's teaching position, and Donovan's latest commissions. It's strange, Layla said eventually. A year ago, we could barely speak without attorneys present. Now we're having midnight coffee like old friends. We have 17 more years of co-parenting ahead of us, Donovan pointed out. This is infinitely preferable to perpetual hostility. Layla smiled. Infinitely. She hesitated, then added, I've been seeing someone. Very casually, just coffee a few times. A science teacher at school. Donovan absorbed this information, searching for jealousy or discomfort and finding none. That's good. The children will want to see you happy. I've been very clear with him about my priorities. Children first, everything else second. She studied Donovan carefully. What about you? Are you dating? He shook his head. Between the business, the children, and the litigation aftermath, there hasn't been time. Or interest, honestly. You'll find someone, Layla said with surprising certainty. Someone who appreciates your strength and understands your commitment to family. Perhaps. He smiled slightly. But I'm in no hurry. As Layla prepared to leave, she paused at the workshop door. Donovan, when you said whatever makes you happy that day, did you already suspect something was wrong? Yes. The cameras were already installed. And you let me believe I'd won so easily because I needed evidence that couldn't be disputed. I needed to protect our children from what was coming. Layla nodded thoughtfully. Your ultimate revenge wasn't exposing Vance or even winning custody. It was rebuilding what he tried to destroy. Our family, just in a different form. I never thought of it as revenge, Donovan replied honestly. Just as necessary reconstruction. Either way, Layla said softly, it worked. As he watched her drive away, Donovan reflected on their journey. From the broken marriage and custody battle to the fraud investigation and family reconstruction, they had navigated a complex path to reach this point of respectful collaboration. The family Vance Hollister had tried to destroy hadn't merely survived. It had evolved into something perhaps stronger than before. Different, certainly. Changed irrevocably, but solid in its foundations and secure in its connections. Whatever Layla had sought when she demanded he give up custody of their children, whatever he had planned when he agreed too quickly, they had both found something unexpected in the aftermath, a painful but necessary truth about themselves and each other, and a new way forward that centered the two people who mattered most. Their children, their future, their enduring connection. Not revenge, but reconstruction. Chapter 7, The Long Game. 2 years after the custody hearing, on a crisp October morning, Donovan sat in his expanded workshop office reviewing quarterly financials. Mercer Custom Furniture had grown from a one-man operation to a thriving business with 12 employees, including skilled craftspeople poached from high-end manufacturers and 2 design school graduates completing apprenticeships. His phone buzzed with a text from Bryant. Check your email. Now, Donovan opened his inbox to find a message from Bryant with the subject line, Look Who's Back, and a link to a luxury lifestyle magazine's website. The featured article showcased an exclusive new Miami gallery called Renaissance Collections, with a familiar face prominently displayed at the opening gala. Vance Hollister, apparently no longer incarcerated, stood smiling beside a glamorous older woman dripping in diamonds. Donovan's blood ran cold. The article identified the woman as Elaine Worthington, 72, described as a philanthropist and art collector whose generous patronage has made Renaissance collections an instant destination for discerning collectors. He immediately called Reed Ferris. "How is this possible?" he demanded when the private investigator answered. "Hollister received a 15-year sentence." "Let me make some calls," Reed replied. "This is the first I'm hearing of his release." Within the hour, Reed had answers. Hollister's conviction was partially overturned on appeal 3 months ago. Technical issues with search warrants. His sentence was reduced to time served plus 5 years probation, with the stipulation he not conduct business in the same state. So he's free to start his scam all over again in Florida? Donovan's voice hardened. Legally, yes. His probation only restricts him from financial dealings in our state. Reed hesitated. "Donovan, leave this alone. Your family has moved past this. Don't get pulled back in." After hanging up, Donovan stared at Vance's smiling face on his screen. The man who had nearly destroyed his family was clearly beginning the same predatory cycle with a new vulnerable target. His first instinct was to warn this Elaine Worthington, but how? He had no connection to her, no credibility in her world. Any attempt to contact her would likely be dismissed as the vindictiveness of a man from Vance's past. Donovan closed the laptop, forcing himself to focus on the present. His business was thriving. The children were thriving. Zoe, now 13, and excelling in advanced mathematics, Aiden 10, and showing real talent in both sports and creative writing. Their co-parenting arrangement with Layla had evolved into a stable, respectful partnership. Why risk reopening old wounds? He'd almost convinced himself to let it go when his phone rang. Layla, calling for her classroom during lunch break. "Have you seen it?" she asked without preamble. "Vance's new gallery?" "Yes, Bryant sent me the link." Tessa's distraught. "The FBI promised us he'd serve at least 10 years. Her voice trembled slightly. "Donovan, he's doing it again. That poor woman." The protectiveness in her tone surprised him. After everything Vance had done to her, Layla's first concern was for his new potential victim. "There's nothing we can do," Donovan said gently. "We have no standing to interfere in his business in another state. So we just watch him destroy another family? Another life? What alternative do you suggest? Fly to Miami and picket his gallery?" Layla was silent for a moment. "No, but something doesn't feel right about doing nothing." After they hung up, Donovan found himself unable to concentrate on work. The image of Vance, smiling, successful, free to pursue new victims, gnawed at him, not because of lingering anger or desire for vengeance, but because of the fundamental injustice. That evening, during dinner with the children, Zoe mentioned her upcoming school science trip to Miami's Oceanographic Institute. "Ms. Kenwood says we'll have free time to explore Miami Beach on the last day," she enthused. "And we're staying at a real hotel, not some gross motel like last year's trip." Donovan's attention sharpened. "When is this trip?" "Next month, November 15th to 18th. "Can I go, Dad?" "Mom already signed her permission slip." "Of course you can go," he assured her, mind racing with possibilities. After the children were in bed, Donovan called Ariana Dunn, his attorney from the custody battle who had since become a trusted advisor and friend. "Hypothetically," he began after explaining the situation, "if someone were to warn Vance Hollister's new patron about his history, would that create any legal exposure?" "Depends entirely on how it's done," Ariana replied cautiously. "Truthful information presented without harassment or threatening language is generally protected speech. However, given your history with Hollister, he could potentially claim harassment or interference with business relationships. What if the information came from someone with no direct connection to our previous case?" Ariana sighed. "Donovan, what are you planning?" "Nothing illegal," he assured her. "Just exploring options to prevent history from repeating itself. My legal advice is to leave this alone, but knowing you won't." She paused thoughtfully. "Information presented by a disinterested third party, based entirely on public records and court documents, would be difficult to challenge legally." The next day, Donovan drove to the neighboring town to meet Tessa Monroe at a quiet cafe away from familiar eyes. "I've been thinking about the Vance situation," he began after they'd ordered. Tessa's face hardened. You mean how he's free and wealthy while Dad's estate is still tied up in litigation? How his parents got longer sentences than he did? How that poor woman is probably already being manipulated just like Layla was? Yes, all of that. Donovan leaned forward. Tessa, would you be willing to help prevent another family from experiencing what yours did? Over the next hour, they formulated a plan. Tessa, as a former gallery employee with legitimate art world connections but no direct legal battles with Vance, would compile a comprehensive dossier on the Hollister family's fraud patterns. The information would be drawn entirely from public court records, news articles, and verified financial documents. Nothing that could be construed as private or illegally obtained. The key is presenting facts without editorial comment, Donovan emphasized. No accusations, just documentation that allows her to draw her own conclusions. And how exactly do we get this information to Elaine Worthington? Tessa asked. I can't exactly walk into a Miami gallery and hand her an envelope. Donovan smiled slightly. As it happens, Zoe's class is taking a science trip to Miami next month. I'll be attending as a parent chaperone. Tessa raised an eyebrow. Convenient timing, isn't it? Donovan agreed. And Renaissance Collections happens to be 3 blocks from their hotel. Over the following weeks, Tessa compiled the dossier, working with Reed Ferris to ensure every document was verifiable and legally obtained. Donovan volunteered as a chaperone for Zoe's school trip, arranging his business schedule to accommodate the 4-day absence. 2 days before departure, he met with Layla during their regular co-parenting check-in. You're really chaperoning the science trip? She asked, unable to hide her surprise. I thought you had that hotel installation deadline. Brian's handling the installation, Donovan explained, and Zoe specifically asked me to volunteer. Layla studied him thoughtfully. The science trip to Miami, where Vance's new gallery is located. Pure coincidence, Donovan replied, maintaining eye contact. Of course. Layla didn't press further, but he could see she understood. After a moment, she asked, Is Tessa involved in this coincidence? She might be providing some information. Layla nodded slowly. Good. Just be careful, Donovan. Vance is vindictive when cornered. I'm not confronting him, Donovan assured her. Just ensuring someone has facts they deserve to know before making significant financial decisions. The Miami trip began uneventfully. 26 excited middle schoolers, 4 teachers, and 6 parent chaperones flew to Florida on a Thursday morning. The first 2 days were filled with educational activities at the Oceanographic Institute, keeping both students and adults fully occupied. On Saturday afternoon, while the students attended a special presentation on marine conservation, Donovan excused himself for what he described as a quick errand. Ms. Kenwood, the lead teacher who had been briefed that he needed to check on a potential furniture client in the area, readily agreed. Renaissance Collections occupied a prime corner location in Miami's design district, its gleaming facade and tasteful signage projecting exactly the right balance of exclusivity and approachability. Donovan entered wearing business casual attire that allowed him to blend seamlessly with the gallery's clientele. Inside, the space was immaculately designed, open and airy with strategic lighting highlighting carefully curated pieces. Donovan recognized the formula immediately. Like Vance's previous gallery, Renaissance Collections presented itself as the arbiter of sophisticated taste, making visitors feel privileged simply to browse its offerings. He moved through the space casually, examining artwork while discreetly scanning for either Vance or Elaine Worthington. According to their research, the gallery owner typically spent Saturday afternoons on-site, often hosting private viewings for select clients. After 15 minutes of strategic browsing, a gallery assistant approached, young, polished, with the practiced smile of someone trained in high-end sales. Are you interested in any particular piece? She inquired. Or perhaps looking for something specific? Just browsing today, Donovan replied pleasantly. Though I understand Ms. Worthington sometimes curates special collections. Are any of those on display? The assistant's expression brightened. You have excellent timing. Ms. Worthington is actually conducting a private viewing in our VIP salon at the moment. May I ask who's inquiring? Donovan Mercer. I'm a custom furniture designer with clients who collect. One mentioned Ms. Worthington's eye for emerging talent. The calculated name drop worked exactly as intended. The assistant's demeanor shifted from polite to eager. Let me see if Ms. Worthington might have a moment to meet you, Mr. Mercer. Her current appointment should be concluding shortly. As the assistant disappeared through a discreet door at the rear of the gallery, Donovan positioned himself near a sculpture with clear sight lines to both the main entrance and the VIP salon. The slim envelope in his jacket pocket contained Tessa's meticulously compiled dossier, including court transcripts, news articles, and financial forensics documenting the Hollister family's pattern of fraud. 5 minutes later, the assistant reappeared, escorting a distinguished older woman with impeccably coiffed silver hair and an aura of refined wealth. Elaine Worthington moved with the confident grace of someone comfortable in her privilege, her designer outfit understated yet clearly expensive. Mr. Mercer, she extended a hand adorned with a single spectacular emerald ring. Cassandra mentioned you're a furniture designer. Custom work, I understand. Yes, specializing in bespoke pieces for residential and select commercial clients. Donovan shook her hand, projecting professional warmth. Your gallery is quite impressive. Renaissance Collections has made quite an entrance into the Miami art scene. Thank you. We pride ourselves on recognizing exceptional talent. She gestured toward a seating area. Perhaps you'd like to discuss potential collaboration? We occasionally pair fine art with complimentary furnishings for our most discerning clients. The invitation was perfect, exactly the opening Donovan had hoped for. As they settled into elegantly minimal chairs, he noted Elaine's shrewd assessment of his attire, demeanor, and potential value to her business interests. Their conversation flowed naturally through art, design trends, and mutual appreciation for craftsmanship. Donovan shared images of his work on his tablet, earning genuine admiration from Elaine, who clearly recognized quality workmanship. Your aesthetic would pair beautifully with several of our artists, she observed, particularly Winston Keller's minimalist sculptures. I'd be interested in exploring that possibility, Donovan replied, setting the stage for his true purpose. Though I typically research potential business partners thoroughly before entering arrangements. Professional due diligence. Elaine nodded approvingly. A wise practice. I operate similarly. I assumed as much, Donovan said, maintaining casual eye contact, which is why I'm surprised by your partnership with Vincent Harding, or as he's known here, Vance Hollister. The change in Elaine's expression was subtle but unmistakable, a momentary freezing of her features before her social mask reasserted itself. You know Vance? She asked carefully. By reputation primarily, Donovan replied truthfully. His business practices in our state generated considerable attention. Before Elaine could respond, the gallery's rear door opened, and Vance himself appeared, engaged in animated conversation with a middle-aged couple. He looked exactly as Donovan remembered, expensively dressed, meticulously groomed, radiating charismatic confidence. When Vance's gaze swept the gallery and landed on Donovan, the transformation was remarkable. His charming smile vanished, replaced by naked shock and then cold fury. Excuse me a moment, Elaine said, noting the exchange of recognition. She moved smoothly to intercept Vance, drawing him into hushed conversation while casting curious glances back at Donovan. This was the crucial moment. Without appearing hurried, Donovan removed the envelope from his jacket and placed it on the table beside Elaine's empty chair. On its front, he had written simply, Public records regarding Vincent Harding / Vance Hollister, for your review. By the time Vance broke away from Elaine and started toward him with barely contained rage, Donovan was already standing. Mr. Hollister, he acknowledged calmly. I was just leaving. Ms. Worthington, thank you for your time. What are you doing here? Vance demanded, voice low but venomous. Professional networking, Donovan replied evenly. Miami has a vibrant design community. Vance stepped closer, keeping his voice just above a whisper. If you interfere with my business, I will make you regret it. I've simply provided publicly available information, Donovan responded, equally quiet. Facts from court records. Nothing more. You had no right. Everyone has the right to make informed decisions, Mr. Hollister, especially when investing significant resources. Donovan held Vance's gaze steadily. Your previous partners certainly wished they'd had that opportunity. Elaine Worthington observed their exchange with sharp interest, her hand resting on the envelope Donovan had left. Is there a problem, gentlemen? She inquired, rejoining them. No problem at all, Donovan assured her. Mr. Hollister and I have crossed paths professionally before. Small world. He extended his hand. Thank you again for your time, Ms. Worthington. My contact information is included in those materials should you have any questions. Vance's face contorted with suppressed rage as Elaine shook Donovan's hand, the envelope now firmly in her possession. I look forward to reviewing these, she said meaningfully. Professional due diligence, as you mentioned. As Donovan departed the gallery, he felt Vance's hateful stare burning into his back. The confrontation had gone exactly as planned. No direct accusations, no scenes, just the careful placement of documented facts into the hands of someone who needed them. Whether Elaine Worthington chose to act on that information was entirely her decision. But she now had what Layla had lacked, the opportunity to recognize the predator before being trapped in his web. Donovan returned to the hotel in time for the student dinner, sliding seamlessly back into his role as parent chaperone. Zoe, absorbed in teenage conversation with her friends, barely noticed his brief absence. That night, he sent a simple text to Tessa, package delivered. Now we wait. The remainder of the trip passed without incident. By Sunday evening, they were airborne heading home, Zoe sleeping against his shoulder while he stared out the airplane window, wondering what might be unfolding in Miami. He didn't have to wonder long. Monday morning brought news alerts to his phone. Prominent Miami gallery closes suddenly, and society philanthropist withdraws funding from Renaissance collections amid fraud allegations. Bryant burst into his office, waving his tablet. Have you seen this? Hollister's gallery is finished. The Worthington woman pulled all financial support and issued a press release thanking concerned citizens for bringing vital information to her attention. Donovan allowed himself a small smile. Interesting development. Interesting? It's justice. Bryant studied his friend. You had something to do with this, didn't you? The Miami trip wasn't just about chaperoning. I simply provided public information to someone who needed it, Donovan replied. The rest was her decision. That evening, during the custody exchange, Layla arched an eyebrow at him. Productive trip to Miami? Very educational, Donovan replied. Zoe learned a lot about marine ecosystems, and Elaine Worthington learned a lot about Vance Hollister, apparently. Her tone remained neutral, but her eyes held quiet approval. Tessa mentioned you might have provided some public records for review, just ensuring history doesn't repeat itself. Layla nodded thoughtfully. Thank you. Not for me, but for whoever might have been next. The conversation shifted to the children's schedules, but something had subtly changed between them, a new layer of understanding and mutual respect. 3 days later, Donovan's phone rang with an unknown Miami number. When he answered, a cultured female voice greeted him. Mr. Mercer? Elaine Worthington. I wanted to thank you personally for your professional courtesy last weekend. No thanks necessary, Donovan replied carefully. I believe in informed business decisions. Indeed, her tone turned reflective. I've spent 50 years building my collection and reputation. Mr. Hollister, or Harding, I should say, nearly became my most expensive mistake. I'm glad you avoided that outcome. As am I. She paused. The authorities here are quite interested in his operations. I've provided them with your contact information, should they need additional context. I hope that's acceptable. Of course, though my knowledge is limited to public records. Understood. And Mr. Mercer? Your furniture designs are exceptional. When you're ready to expand to the Miami market, I know several legitimate galleries that would be privileged to display your work. After disconnecting, Donovan sat back in his chair, a weight lifting from his shoulders. The threat of Vance had lingered in their lives for too long, a shadow that might someday return to darken their hard-won peace. Now that shadow was fading permanently, not through violence or illegal action, but through the simple power of truth brought to light. Justice, in its way, had finally been served. Chapter 8. Reconstruction. 1 year after the Miami confrontation, Donovan stepped back to survey his latest creation, a massive conference table crafted from reclaimed timber for the executive boardroom of Worthington Enterprises. The commission had come through Elaine Worthington herself, who had indeed become both client and advocate for Mercer Custom Furniture in southern markets. The connection had proven fortuitous beyond mere business opportunities. Through Elaine's legal team, Tessa and Layla had finally recovered substantial assets from their father's estate that had been fraudulently diverted by the Hollisters. The financial vindication brought closure that criminal convictions alone hadn't provided. "It's magnificent," Bryant declared, running his hand along the table's polished surface. "Worthington will be thrilled." "It's a good piece," Donovan agreed, modest as always about his craftsmanship. "Shipping to Miami next week. I'll oversee the installation personally." "Another Miami trip?" Bryant raised an eyebrow. "Becoming quite the jet-setter these days." Donovan smiled slightly. "It's good to expand our footprint. Besides, Zoe wants to visit the Oceanographic Institute again. She's considering marine biology for college now." "College?" Bryant looked startled. "She's only 14, almost 15, and already researching programs." The transformation of their family over the past 3 years sometimes struck Donovan with wonder. Zoe had blossomed from a shy, mathematics-focused child into a confident teenager with diverse interests. Aiden, now 11, had discovered competitive swimming and creative writing, his earlier anxiety replaced by determined self-assurance. Even more surprising was his relationship with Layla. From adversaries locked in bitter custody disputes to respectful co-parents, they had navigated a complex journey toward mutual understanding. The children moved seamlessly between their households, secure in the knowledge that both parents prioritized their well-being above all else. That evening, during their monthly co-parenting dinner, a tradition established to discuss the children's needs without their presence, Layla shared news of her own. "I've been offered the department chair position," she announced as they studied menus at their regular restaurant. "Congratulations," Donovan said sincerely. "Well-deserved recognition." "Thank you." She smiled, confidence evident in her posture, a far cry from the uncertain woman who had once sought validation through Vance's manipulation. "It means longer hours initially, so I may need flexibility with the custody schedule this summer." "Whatever works best for the kids," Donovan assured her. "My schedule is adaptable." They discussed logistics comfortably, the business-like efficiency of their co-parenting arrangement well established. As their entrees arrived, Layla transitioned to personal news. "Gregory has asked me to move in with him," she said carefully, studying Donovan's reaction. Gregory Palmer, the science teacher she had mentioned years earlier, had slowly become a steady presence in Layla's life, and by extension, the children's lives. Thoughtful and patient, he had carefully respected boundaries with both Zoe and Aiden, earning their gradual acceptance, if not quite enthusiastic embrace. "That's a significant step," Donovan observed neutrally. "How do you feel about it?" "Cautiously optimistic, but concerned about disrupting the children's stability again." "Have you discussed it with them?" Layla shook her head. "I wanted to talk with you first. Get your perspective before making any decisions." The fact that she valued his input on such a personal matter reflected how far they'd come. Donovan considered his response carefully. "The children's security comes from consistency and communication, not necessarily unchanging circumstances," he said finally. "If Gregory makes you happy and respects your relationship with the kids, a gradual transition could work well." Relief softened Layla's features. "That's my thinking too. A slow integration, maintaining both households initially until everyone adjusts." "Sounds reasonable." Donovan's tone remained supportive. Dr. Weiss could help navigate the conversations with Zoe and Aiden. Their discussion shifted to practical considerations: living arrangements, school transportation, holiday planning. The mundane yet essential details that formed the scaffold of their children's security. As they finished dinner, Layla studied him thoughtfully. "You've never mentioned dating anyone, Donovan. It's been over 3 years since our separation." The question caught him off guard. The business expansion and the children have been my priorities. The children are thriving, and your business is more successful than ever. Her expression held genuine concern. But what about your personal life? Donovan considered deflecting, then opted for honesty. I'm not opposed to the idea. It just hasn't been a focus. Maybe it should be, Layla suggested gently. You deserve happiness too, you know. On the drive home, Donovan found himself reflecting on Layla's words. His life was full. Challenging work, growing children, expanding business. Yet the personal dimension remained largely unexplored since their marriage ended. The truth was, rebuilding after betrayal had required concentrated energy. First, safeguarding his children, then restructuring his business, then establishing healthy co-parenting patterns. Each phase had demanded attention and intention, leaving little space for new relationships. But perhaps Layla was right. Perhaps it was time to consider that aspect of life again. The opportunity arose unexpectedly the following week. While finalizing the Miami installation plans, Donovan collaborated with Elaine Worthington's interior designer, Miranda Jessup, a formidable professional with an impressive portfolio of high-end commercial projects. Your craftsmanship is extraordinary, Miranda commented during their third video conference. The integration of structural elements with aesthetic considerations is rare in custom furniture at this scale. Their professional discussions gradually expanded to include design philosophy, creative processes, and eventually personal backgrounds. Donovan found himself enjoying their conversations, appreciating her direct communication style and thoughtful insights. When Miranda mentioned she would be visiting his region the following month to source materials for another project, Donovan surprised himself by suggesting dinner. I'd enjoy continuing our discussions in person, he offered, maintaining professional framing while testing unfamiliar waters. I'd like that, Miranda replied with a warm smile. Professional collaboration over good food is always productive. That evening, he mentioned the upcoming dinner meeting to Zoe while helping with her science project. Like a date? She asked immediately, teenage perception cutting straight to possibilities he'd carefully avoided labeling. A professional connection, Donovan corrected, focusing on the molecular model they were constructing. Zoe rolled her eyes with adolescent skepticism. Dad, it's okay if it's a date. Mom's been with Gregory forever. We're not going to spontaneously combust if you have dinner with someone. Donovan looked up, startled by her matter-of-fact assessment. It's not that simple, Zoe. Actually, it kind of is. She connected another bond to their model. You and Mom are better apart than you were together at the end. We get that now. The insight from his not-quite-15-year-old daughter was both surprising and humbling. Children, Donovan reflected, often perceived emotional truths with clarity adults struggled to acknowledge. When Miranda arrived the following month, their dinner extended far beyond professional discussion. They discovered shared interests in architectural history, wilderness hiking, and classic films. Her direct communication style matched his own preference for straightforward conversation, creating easy rapport despite their different backgrounds. This wasn't entirely a professional dinner, was it? Miranda asked as they finished dessert. Not entirely, Donovan admitted, though I haven't done this in a while. Dating? Her smile was understanding rather than mocking. Neither have I. Career took precedence for many years. For me, it was the children, then the business. He hesitated. My situation is somewhat complicated. The co-parenting arrangement with your ex-wife? At his surprised expression, she added, Elaine mentioned it. She's quite impressed with how you've handled everything, by the way. It's been a process, Donovan acknowledged. The children's stability remains my priority. As it should be. Miranda's directness was refreshing. I'm not looking to disrupt anyone's life, Donovan. Just exploring a connection that seems interesting. Their relationship developed with deliberate slowness. Video calls between her projects and his installations. Occasional visits when business brought her to his region. Careful introduction to the children only after months of consistent communication established that their connection had substance beyond casual dating. Zoe, predictably, approached the situation with analytical thoroughness, asking Miranda detailed questions about her design philosophy and career path. Aiden was more reserved initially, watchful and assessing as children of divorce often are with potential parental partners. Throughout this careful integration, Donovan maintained transparent communication with Layla, honoring their commitment to coordinated parenting. She responded with genuine support, having found her own balance with Gregory. By the time the Miami conference table installation arrived, 6 months after their first dinner, Miranda had become a welcome presence in their lives, not replacing any existing relationships, but adding a new dimension that enriched rather than complicated. As they stood together admiring the completed installation in Worthington's executive boardroom, Miranda slipped her hand into his. "We make a good team," she observed, surveying their complementary contributions to the space. "We do," Donovan agreed, the simple acknowledgement encompassing far more than professional collaboration. Later that evening, during a video call with the children from his Miami hotel room, Zoe asked the question he'd been anticipating. "Is Miranda your girlfriend now, Dad?" Donovan considered his response carefully. "We're building something meaningful together. Is that okay with you and Aiden?" The siblings exchanged glances through the split screen of their separate devices. "She's cool," Aiden offered with 11-year-old approval. "And she doesn't try too hard like Gregory did at first. We like her," Zoe added more articulately. "And you seem happy, Dad. Not just okay, but actually happy." The observation struck Donovan with its simple truth. The contentment he'd built through work, parenting, and reconstructed family relationships had been genuine. But this new dimension added something different, a personal connection that existed solely for itself, not as an extension of his roles as father, business owner, or co-parent. It was, he realized, the final piece of his own reconstruction. Not recovery or replacement of what was lost, but the creation of something entirely new from the materials life had provided. Complete, but in a different form than he could have imagined 3 years earlier when Layla had demanded he surrender their children. Different, and perhaps stronger for having been rebuilt with such deliberate care. Chapter 9. Full Circle. 5 years after Layla's devastating demand and Donovan's calculated agreement, the extended family gathered in the backyard of what had once been their shared home. The occasion was Zoe's high school graduation party, a celebration that would have seemed impossible during the darkest days of their family fracture. Under string lights and summer stars, the reconstructed family demonstrated how thoroughly healing had occurred. Donovan and Miranda arranged food on tables while Layla and Gregory organized games for younger guests. Aiden, now 14 and nearly as tall as his father, helped Ruth Monroe set up additional chairs for late arrivals. Zoe moved between groups with confident ease, equally comfortable with her father's business associates, her mother's teaching colleagues, and her own diverse circle of friends. At 17, she had blossomed into a poised young woman, accepted to prestigious marine biology programs on both coasts. "Hard to believe how far we've come," Tessa commented, joining Donovan at the grill. "Remember where we were 5 years ago?" "Every day," Donovan replied honestly. "The perspective keeps me grateful." The journey had indeed been remarkable. From the bitter custody battle and Vance's manipulations to this harmonious gathering, each step had required intentional reconstruction of what family could mean beyond traditional boundaries. The final confrontation with Vance in Miami had marked a turning point, not just protecting a potential victim, but reclaiming power over their own narrative. In the years since, Vance Hollister had faded from their lives, reportedly moving to Europe after multiple American ventures collapsed under increased regulatory scrutiny. More significant than Vance's downfall was the family's reconstruction. Donovan and Layla had transformed adversarial legal positions into a functional partnership centered entirely on their children's well-being. The introduction of Miranda and Gregory had added new dimensions rather than complications, expanding the support system available to both children. "Dad," Zoe appeared at his elbow. "Principal Winslow wants to talk to you and Mom about the scholarship committee." As they navigated the party together, Donovan and Layla moved with the comfortable coordination of seasoned co-parents. Their conversation with the principal focused on establishing a STEM scholarship in Zoe's name as she departed for college, flowed seamlessly between them, shared pride evident in their complementary perspectives. Your daughter's achievements are extraordinary, Principal Winslow observed. And frankly, so is your successful co-parenting arrangement. Many families never recover from difficult divorces as yours has. We had excellent motivation, Layla replied, watching Zoe rejoin her friends across the yard. And professional guidance, Donovan added, acknowledging Dr. Weiss's crucial role in their journey. Later, as the party wound down and guests departed, the core family remained. Donovan and Miranda, Layla and Gregory. The children, Ruth and Tessa, gathered around the fire pit in comfortable conversation. "I've made my decision," Zoe announced during a lull. "I'm accepting Berkeley's program." The California school had offered the most prestigious marine biology opportunity, but also represented the greatest geographic distance from home. "We'll support whatever you choose," Donovan assured her. "We always have," Layla added with a knowing smile. "Even when you were determined to dismantle your bedroom furniture at age 9. Dad helped put it back together," Zoe recalled, laughing. After explaining proper tool use, Donovan confirmed, enjoying the shared memory. As conversation continued around summer plans and college preparations, Donovan found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment of harmonious celebration. The night Layla had demanded custody of their children, delivering Vance's ultimatum as though it were her own desire, had seemed an ending. The calculated "whatever makes you happy" he'd offered in response, buying time while hidden cameras recorded everything, had been the opening move in what he'd expected to be a protracted battle. Neither of them could have anticipated the complex path forward, not just legal victory or defeat, but the gradual reconstruction of family in an entirely new configuration. Not the restoration of what was lost, but the creation of something different and unexpectedly stronger. As the evening concluded and farewells were exchanged, warm hugs between once adversaries, comfortable plans for upcoming shared events, Donovan walked with Miranda toward his truck. "You're quiet," she observed, perceptive as always. "Just reflecting," he replied. 5 years ago, I installed hidden cameras in that house to protect my relationship with my children. Tonight, we celebrated Zoe's graduation together as an extended family." "Full circle," Miranda noted, "though perhaps more of an upward spiral than a circle. You're all in a better place than where you started." Her observation resonated with truth. The painful fracture had ultimately led to more authentic relationships all around. Layla had found herself beyond the shadow of manipulation. The children had gained additional supportive adults in their lives. And Donovan had discovered capacity for forgiveness and reconstruction he hadn't known he possessed. The following morning, as he worked in his expanded workshop on a special graduation gift for Zoe, a custom desk designed to transition from college dorm to future professional space, Donovan received an unexpected text from Layla. Found this in old files while packing Zoe's room. Thought you might want it. Attached was a photo of a handwritten note in his own writing from years earlier, "Built with love, made to last." The family motto he had carved above the kitchen doorframe, the one Vance had dismissively suggested replacing during his brief residence in their home. Donovan smiled at the memory, no longer painful, but merely a marker on their journey. He texted back, still true, just in a different form. Layla's response came quickly. Yes. Better craftsmanship this time around. As he returned to shaping wood for his daughter's future, Donovan reflected on the wisdom in Layla's assessment. Their reconstructed family bonds had indeed been built with greater care than the original structure, with consciousness of vulnerabilities, with deliberate reinforcement at stress points, with appreciation for the distinct grain of each person's nature. The ultimate revenge against those who would destroy what matters most wasn't exposure or humiliation, though Vance had certainly experienced both. It was reconstruction, the patient, deliberate rebuilding of something more resilient than what had been damaged. "Whatever makes you happy," he had said that fateful night, playing for time while hidden cameras recorded everything. In the years since, they had all discovered what truly constituted happiness. Not possession or control, not external validation or appearances, but authentic connections built on respect, communication, and genuine care. The reconstruction was complete. Different from the original design, adapted to new